Hello my wonderful friends, welcome to my channel. If you're new, my name is Sarsana and today we are going to be discussing all of the books that I want to read in 2025 and some reading goals. The books we're going to be discussing in this video are books that I actually have on my physical TBR. I feel like I went a little crazy last year and purchased a lot of books that have just been sitting on my bookshelves and I really want to read them. There's so many wonderful books that are on my shelves that I've just been craving to read, but it just hasn't been the right mood, the right season, the right time, and I really want to start prioritizing these before purchasing new books. I'm not going to be going on like a book buying ban or something like that because that never lasts. So I'm just going to be more mindful about the stuff that I'm reading. And this year I also want to prioritize reading more indie books. That was a priority last year and I am going to be maintaining it because I love supporting indie authors and there are some amazing books written by indie authors and there's new authors that I've never discovered and I just feel like they need more hype. So I am going to be focusing on bringing attention to those authors and those books. I also want to read a little bit more outside of my typical genre. I am very comfortable reading romanticises. I've gotten more into reading epic fantasies and I want to continue that. I want to discover more authors in epic fantasies this year. My main go-to, if you've been following along, is Brandon Sanderson. Absolutely love him, but this year I also want to read John Gwynne. I've heard really good things about John Gwynne and Robin Hobb, the Farseer series. I really want to get into that. I'm not really sure who else is out there, but I am really excited to discover more authors and more books that are in the epic fantasy genre. I think I also want to read more like dark romances. I love dark romances, but like there are some that are just like a hit or miss for me. I want to discover what I like in dark romances as well. So we're going to be discovering some things that we're not very familiar with this year and things that we don't typically read. I also want to get into sci-fi fantasy. So we're going to be discussing some of the books that I have on my shelves. Some of these I've just been putting off for such a long time that do fall into the categories that I've just listed. So let's get started. We have a lot of books to get through, so I'm going to show you guys the book and give you a reason for why I want to read it, and we're gonna keep it moving. We're not going to be getting into the plot of it. I'm not going to be reading the back of the book or anything like that because we would be here forever, and I think I have like over 30 books here. So let's get into it. I'm going to be breaking it down into genres and indie published versus traditionally published as well. So let's get started. So the first book I have on this pile is Fear the Flames by Olivia Rose Darling. I love her name. I love this cover. And I love the fact that there's dragons here. I want to read more books with dragons. What girl doesn't? And it just looks really beautiful. I've heard really good things about it, so I want to read it. And it's also like not very long. I don't even know when the second book is coming out, and that is another thing. I hate picking up books when the series isn't completed, but I am going to try to ignore that aspect and just dive into the book and see how I feel about it. Next we have the first book in the Kindred's Curse saga by Penn Cole. I did buy this indie version. As you can see, it's paperback. This is Spark of the Everflame. I heard nothing but good things about this as well. I know that this is a romantasy and that's all I really need to know about it. I absolutely love romantasies. There's a kingdom, there's epic battles and whatnot. Count me in. I've also never read anything by Penn Cole, so I'm really excited to read this book. I've heard nothing but raving good things about this series next, and I just want to know what the hype is about. And I also bought the collector's edition because I have no self-control and I see a pretty book and I buy it immediately. This is the Plated Prisoner series by Raven Kennedy. I've also never read anything by Raven Kennedy before and I've heard nothing but good things about this series, so I can't wait to read this. This next book is from my list of anticipated reads from 2023. This book came out in 2024 and I was really excited to read it. I bought it as soon as it was released and I've never read it. It just sat on my shelves. I know. This is Bloodguard by C.C. Robson. Look at the edges. It is beautiful. This is sort of like a trial kind of book, sort of like Phantasma, Caraval vibes. And I think this is also with like vampires or something like that. This just gives me Hunger Game vibes and I am all for it. And squeeze in some kind of fairy, magical, vampire lore in here and I am sold. I really want to pick this book up this year. I have been dying to read it and this is the year I am going to be reading it. If you guys are seeing like weird like shadows and stuff in this room for this video, I'm so sorry. The sun is hitting in like the weirdest angle and I'm trying to give you guys good lighting, but it's just not cooperating, so please bear with me. And then the next book that I want to read this year is When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. I never read a book by Sarah A. Parker before and I knew I was going to love this book because I definitely bought the Berry Loot edition because again, I see a pretty book, I feel like I'm going to like it, so I just buy it. No self-control. I am really excited to read this and I think there's also a dragon in this book and say less. And then next I want to read Bonesmith by Nikki Pau Preto, I think is the name. Nikki Pau Preto. I really hope I'm saying her name right. This is the first book in the Crown of Feathers trilogy. I have the first and second book. I don't have the third book yet because I don't think it came out yet. I really want to read this. This is for fans of Throne of Glass. We have a badass FMC and this is a romantasy as well. And again, say less. I'm so excited to pick this up. I've been dying to pick it up and it just hasn't been the right moment. So her moment to shine will be this year. This year I am reading the Caraval series. I have Legendary and Finale to finish up. After those two books, I am going to be picking up the Once Upon a Broken Heart series by Stephanie Garber. I am so excited to read this series because I've heard that it is romantasy at its finest and I am pretty fond of Stephanie Garber's writing so far. I really enjoyed Caraval and I want to get into the rest of the series. I heard that this is also a lot better than Caraval and I already like Caraval pretty well. So I'm really excited to see what this book is about. If anything, I have the willpower of titanium when it comes to reading books until the series is complete. And if I hear controversial things about it and the series is not complete, I will wait as long as I possibly can to read that series. So I read Fourth Wing last year and I heard a lot of controversial opinions about Iron Flame. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to wait to read Iron Flame until I am close to the release date of Onyx Storm. Onyx Storm is going to be coming out in like 2 weeks and I need to get on to reading Iron Flame. I'm going to do a reread of Fourth Wing and then I'm gonna read Iron Flame right in time for me to read Onyx Storm. Will it shatter me? Probably. But am I gonna read it anyways? Absolutely. We are still going to continue on with our romantasy section of this video. So the next few books that I'm going to be talking about are romantasy, but they're also indie published. I really want to read Fairy Tale this year. This is by Veronica Lance. This book is literally the most beautiful book I have ever laid eyes on. Just here. I will show you guys real quick what this looks like. How gorgeous is it? This is like a face and then we have a man's body right here. He has wings. It just looks so beautiful. This is like a work of art, this entire cover, and this book is thick as hell, but she's also pretty small. Like I'm very small, so I don't know if you can tell just by comparing, but I'm really excited to read this. This is a standalone, so it's not a series, which I absolutely love because I'm in the middle of so many series and I need to read a freaking standalone. So this is going to be read definitely this year. Then I want to read A Touch of Gold and Madness. This book has been all over my For You page on TikTok, and this is also by an indie author. K.L. DeVore is the author of this book, and I know that there's a prequel book, but you're supposed to read it in publishing order, so I'm going to read this first and then I'm going to pick up the next one. on because I already know I'm going to love it. I absolutely love romanticies. It is my genre. So I can't wait to pick this book up. I have no idea what it's about and I don't want to know. I just want to go into it blindly and I just can't wait. I can't wait to dive into this. Next we have Metal Slinger by Rachel Schneider. Never read a book by Rachel Schneider either, and I'm really excited to read this. I heard the ending of this book is pretty tragic, so I'm really scared. This is the first book in the Fire and Metal series. I'm nervous, but I can't wait to read it. Next I want to read Reign of Shadows and Endings by Melissa K. Rorich. I read the Lady of Darkness series last year and I was entirely consumed by that series. It was so good. The world building and everything just gave me like ACOTAR and Throne of Glass vibes. It is pretty similar to Throne of Glass as far as the plot aspects of it, but then after like the first and second book, it completely transforms into a series of its own and it's just so amazing. I was very skeptical about starting that series, but I'm so glad I gave it a chance. This is the Legacy series. This is the first book in the series and the world is in the same world as Lady of Darkness. I absolutely love that series, so I really want to pick this up. I really love Melissa K. Rorich's writing as well. It is so beautiful and it is so immersive. I really enjoyed it. I cannot wait to pick this series up. Another book that has been on my radar is The Book of Azrael by Amber V. Nicole. This is the first book in her Monsters, Gods and Monsters series. There's 3 books out so far. I have all 3 of them. And I think the 4th one is coming out sometime this year, which I'm already excited for, even though I haven't even read this series, because I feel like it is going to be epic and absolutely fantastic. I cannot wait to read this. I think this is like a dark romantasy. Say less. I love a dark fantasy. I feel like that's another new sub-genre that I need to look into because something about that genre like literally transports me right into that world. This is going to be read this year. I cannot wait. I have been saying I'm going to read this series for like the longest time ever and I just haven't gotten to it because 1, it's intimidating. 2, it is like a 12-book series. It is just so long. Each book is like damn near 1,000 pages. I was absolutely obsessed with this series when I had started it, but I stopped myself because I was starting to get traumatized and I was like, I need to wait until they finish this series. From what I'm saying, you've probably already gathered that I'm talking about the Zodiac Academy series. So I read books 1 through 3. I read the Ruthless Boys series and I just want to finish this damn series. I need to be back in this world. I need to know what happens with Tori and Darcy. I absolutely love Tori. I love Darcy, but Tori's definitely my favorite and I just want to be back in this world. These are my friends and I just want to be back with them so badly. So this is definitely going to be read this year and I cannot wait to go back into this world. Okay, so that is the end of our romantasy section of this video and now we're going to be going into some epic fantasies. So the first book I have here is The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. I've heard really good things about his writing and this is about dragons. I am assuming. I literally read nothing about this series. I don't know what it's about. I just know it's an epic fantasy. The plot is absolutely insane. The book is action-packed and I'm so excited. I cannot wait to read this series. I need a good war scene. I need some dragons and a great ass plot and I'm sold. And then I have The Shadow of What Was Lost by James Islington. I have no idea what this book is about, but I've heard really good things about James Islington. I've never read a book by him either. And this just screams epic fantasy. I think there's like crazy war scenes and found family. All I know about this series, I saw Kaven Brooks crying about the series on her TikTok channel and I was like, well, now I want to read it. You know, like if a book makes somebody cry, like I need to cry with you. Otherwise you're going to be all alone. So I am going to be reading that series this year. I have books 1 and 2. I still have to buy book 3, but I think I'm going to hold off until I read book 1 and 2 because I'm also trying not to buy the entire series until I've read at least the first book and I know I'm going to be proceeding with that series. Next, if anybody is surprised, why? I have books by Brandon Sanderson here. This is The Alloy of Law. This is the 4th book in the Mistborn series. This is the 2nd arc. I can't wait to read this. I love Brandon Sanderson, and for the first time ever, this is like a really short book. I've never read a short book by Brandon Sanderson before. This is literally like 300 pages. What a baby. I can't wait to read this. I'm so excited. I'm not going to talk about Brandon Sanderson anymore because it just depresses me, because every time I think about him now, I think about Wind and Truth and how long we have to wait for the 2nd arc of the Stormlight Archives. Anyways, I digress. Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. This is also in the Stormlight Archives world, and I just can't wait to kind of put the pieces together from this book into the rest of the Stormlight Archive series that I've read so far. This is a part of one of his secret project books. And speaking of secret project books, I also have The Sunlit Man. This is also a part of the Stormlight Archives world. And I want to, again, know what the hype is about. I want to know how I can put the puzzle pieces together, because the way Brandon Sanderson puts those Easter eggs in and connects the characters in each of his books is absolutely insane. And then for our sci-fi books, I have 2 books here that have been on my shelves. I have been dying to pick these up. I refuse to watch the movie because I want to read the book first. I'm a firm believer if there is a book out, if it was adapted as a movie or show, I need to read the book first because the books are usually better. So the first book I have here is Dune by Frank Herbert. I just want to read this book. That's my reason. The world building looks super cool, and there are so many books out of the series, like it literally gives me Star Wars vibes, and I just want to be in this world. I want to know what the hype is about. I have complete FOMO, so I just want to read it. I want to read Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I heard the writing is absolutely insane. Never read a book by Pierce Brown before. I have been dying to read Red Rising because it like reminds me of outer space. It reminds me of Star Wars. It reminds me of Game of Thrones, I guess. I don't think that there's like any dragons or anything in it, but it just like screams epic novel to me. But I've heard really good things about it, and I just want to read it. The next pile we have here is some dark romances that I really need to get to this year. The first book that we have is by Jessie Hall. This is That Sick Love. I know nothing about it. I just know that it is a crazy ride, and we have a very unhinged MMC, so I can't wait to read it. I don't know when I'm gonna read it, but I know I want to read it this year, and I've never read a Jessie Hall book before either, so I want to see if I like her writing and if I want to read any more books by her. But this has been on my TBR for almost 2 years. I just need to get to it. I have Carnage by Chantal Tessier on my list here. I read the L.O.R.D.S books, The Ritual, The Sinner, and The Sacrifice by Chantal Tessier last year, and I absolutely loved it. And I got a little bit of the Spade brothers in that series, and I just need to know what this series is about, the rest of it. It's like in the same world. We see like the same characters, but this is about the Spade brothers now, and I just can't wait to dive into it. It was super dark, super spicy, absolutely unhinged and insane. I can't wait to be back in this world. Speaking of unhinged and crazy, I want to read God of Malice by Rena Kent. Again, never read a book by Rena Kent. I love that I have so many books by so many authors that I've never read a book by, and I just haven't picked it up. What is wrong with me? I cannot wait to read this book. I have the entire series, the indie versions, because like I said, I love supporting indie authors, and yeah, this has just been on my radar, and I just really need to pick it up. I feel like I'm going to love this series, so that's probably why I bought the entire series already. I just can't wait to read this. I think that there's like some kind of a trial or something at the beginning of this book, and then it just gets insane, and the MMC is supposed to be totally unhinged and a psychopath. And then I also never read a book by this author before. This is The Predator by Rune X. This is the first book in the Dark Verse series. I have all of the books from the Dark Verse series, and I've heard really good things about it. I cannot wait to read it, and it's also pretty short, so I'm just really excited to dive into this. I might do like a whole reading vlog on this series because and I feel like I'm going to be completely consumed by this series as well. I need to stop saying the word excited because you already know that I am excited, but I am really looking forward to all of these books. Some of you may yell at me for this, but I want to complete the Magnolia Parks and Daisy Hate series. Like, I need to read this next book. This series is so fucking traumatizing, and I just like want to pick it up, but at the same time I don't, because I just don't want to be scarred and hurt, and I'm just terrified to pick this book up. But I really need to get to it, and I'm going to finish this series this year. It's going to happen. And speaking of being traumatized, here's another book, Say You Swear by Megan Brandy. I bought this last year and I've been dying to pick it up, and I just haven't. I don't know why. I think I'm just terrified to have my heart broken, because I heard that this book is very heart-wrenching, and I'm just terrified. I don't know if I'm ready for it, but I also heard it's like super beautiful, and I just want to know what it's about. All right, last book, I promise. We have Saving Six by Chloe Walsh. I read Binding and Keeping 13 by Chloe Walsh last year, and I was absolutely devastated. Also so happy to read that series. Johnny and Shannon are couple goals. They're so cute together. Their love is so magnificent, so wholesome, so real. The trauma and growth that they both went through in those books was immensely enjoyable to watch. But I'm also very terrified to read about Joey and Aoife, because Joey went through hell. The stuff that Joey went through, I'm really scared to go through with him, because no kid should go through the crap that he went through. I'm just really terrified, but I also want to be back in this world, you know? Sometimes pleasure is pain. All right, my friends, that is all I have for you today. I am really excited to read all of these books that I talked to you about. There's other books that I probably haven't mentioned, but there's only so many books I can prioritize at once. This year, I do want to read at least 120 books, and maybe I'm overcommitting here, but last year I did read 114, and I just want to challenge myself and just like make that hump. But at the same time, I'm not going to hold myself to it. That is like a nice goal to reach, but at the same time, I don't want to have anxiety over trying to finish it and meeting that goal. I don't want to read so many books to the point where I get stressed out and I feel like I'm not enjoying reading anymore. It's just a goal, nice to have, but we're not going to put it down in concrete stone. This is my senior year of college as well, so I have like capstone classes to get through and stuff, and it's just going to be a super busy time in my life right now. So I want to read for enjoyment, and I want to read indie books. I want to read books whenever I feel like reading. I'm also not going to be requesting for any ARCs. Like last year, I signed up for a lot of ARCs and beta reads that I just couldn't commit to, and I feel so awful, and I just haven't had the time, energy, or bandwidth to commit to those reads. I cannot wait for the releases that are going to be happening this year as well. I feel like 2025 is going to be a great year. I just cannot wait to start reading more and more. I really want to like immerse myself in all of these different worlds and all of these different stories. I just love reading so much, as probably all of you do as well if you're watching this video. Let me know if you guys have read any of these books that I've listed in this video, and if I should be prioritizing any of these before the others, because I just want to read all of them at once. Thank you so much for watching my video. That is all for today, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.